Tour guide Rahul Varma claims his valuable camera was lost when a first-time kayaker T-boned his kayak after ignoring his instructions. Victoria Rains says she panicked in the choppy water but didn't need Mr. Varma's help.
Okay, I've got Mr. Varma here as the plaintiff and Ms. Rains as the defendant. Mr. Varma, why are we in court today?
Your Honor, I'm here to sue Ms. Rains for her complete negligence, which caused her kayak to crash into mine, causing my kayak to capsize. And when my kayak capsized, my belongings, which was my water bag, fell into the water, and I ended up losing a very critical piece of equipment, which was my camera. Your Honor, this was not just a camera. The reason I'm here today is because this camera was a gift from my dad right before he passed away.
I was going to ask you if you, do you take photos commercially as well?
I take photos commercially as well, yes.
What is the circumstance in which you and this woman were kayaking in the same vicinity in the first place?
I met Victoria through a mutual friend, Jessica. Okay. So Jessica reached out to me and she asked me...
Jessica's a friend, a girlfriend? Who is Jessica?
It's just a friend from college. And she reached out. She was like, hey, we have a group together, and we would love to go to Channel Islands, and we want to kayak. And so we would really like you if you can be our tour guide. That would be kind of great. So I agreed.
Got it.
And I asked Jessica that, is there someone that has never kayaked before? So she pointed out that 8 people have basically no kayaking experience. There was about 12 people in the group. There was 12 people in the group.
Was Victoria one of no experience?
Victoria was one of the 8 people.
Okay.
And knowing that we had 8 inexperienced kayakers, I wanted to make sure that we get there early in the morning because the water is relatively calm in the morning. Compared to the afternoons, it can get choppy right after 2 or 3 p.m. We were there and Victoria was running late. It was 10 a.m. We missed our ferry. The group was unhappy, but we decided that, hey, we don't want to leave her behind.
You waited for her?
We waited for her.
What time do y'all get there?
We caught the next ferry.
Which was at what time?
Which was around 12 o'clock.
Oh, so now you're in mid-afternoon.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then how at this point, sir, are you talking to me about $450 worth of lost camera expenses as it relates to this woman? Get to that part, please.
Absolutely. Once we got to the island, we had a quick lunch. Everyone was starving, and then right after that, we decided to go on a kayaking adventure.
Okay.
Right before we left, I got the group together to do a quick briefing, and that they will be expecting some choppy waters. I asked them if they're comfortable. The group said that they're okay, so I made sure that everyone was okay to go in choppy waters for kayaking.
Hold on, Mr. Varma. Victoria, were you okay to go into the choppy waters?
Your Honor, it was my first time, but I agreed, yes.
Okay, I want some more from you, but hold on one second. Go ahead, finish, sir.
Okay, so initially Victoria was doing just fine, but as the waters became more choppy right after 3 p.m., I looked at Victoria and she was struggling. She was struggling more than the others. I got close. As I was getting close, I told Victoria to stay calm and remember the instructions that I'd given her prior to boarding. And what happened was, as I was trying to grab onto her kayak to stabilize it and calm her down, her paddle hit my face and her kayak hit me perpendicular. And so I fell into the water as my kayak essentially tipped over. Once I got on the kayak, it was then that I actually noticed that my belongings were gone. The water bag was gone.
Oh my gosh.
And I told the group that leave your phones back in the car.
Right. So you understand that there's a risk of harm.
Absolutely.
So why would you bring something so precious to you on a kayak?
You know what, Ms. Rains, let's hear from you at this point. Do you have any evidence that you want to prove to this court to support your claim?
Absolutely, Your Honor. At this point, I'd like to present this evidence.
Great.
So, if I might back up a bit, I'm a student at UC Irvine, and I know Jessica, our mutual friend from high school.
Okay.
She invited me to go on this kayaking trip with her friend Rahul. And I said, yes, that sounds super fun. So we decided to meet at Santa Barbara at the boat dock landing. And so when I get in my car that morning, I realized my car battery was dead.
Oh, okay.
So that is what set me back, not the traffic.
Okay.
And unfortunately, there's nothing really I could do about that. So I called a friend, got it jumped, was on the road as fast as possible. I called Jessica, so apologetic, felt horrible. I told them to go on without me if they wanted to, but they waited, super kind of them.
Right.
So we get to the boat, and I was in such a frenzy because I was running late. I felt bad. I didn't really know anyone on the trip except for Jessica.
Sure.
And so I forgot to leave my phone in the car. And so when we're on the ferry, I realized that Rahul, our instructor, he has a dry bag. And I asked him, can I please just slip my phone in there? I know the risks of bringing my phone on a kayak.
Sure.
The ocean's a crazy place, I get it, but it's a better chance than just putting it in a pocket or something.
Yes.
So he agrees, which was very kind, and he keeps my phone in there. And so we get on the kayak, so fast forward. And we get on the kayaks, beautiful day, going in and out of the caves, wonderful blue crystal water. I'm having a really good time, honestly.
Coming up on Equal Justice.
And then all of a sudden, I feel Rahul's hand grabbing my paddle and yanking it towards him. I don't know what he was trying to do, but because he yanked my paddle towards him, I guess trying to stabilize me, the top of my kayak T-boned his.
And later,
So I cracked open the oven and I said, we need to let the pavlova cool, let's go have dinner. When I came back from dinner to check on the pavlova, the oven was closed. So it was cracked, burnt, and completely.
Equal Justice is back with the case of Rahul Varma, who blames Victoria Rains for capsizing his kayak.
So the afternoon lightens and it's about 3 p.m. and the water gets a bit choppy.
Right.
And that's when we come out of the cave and I start freaking out a bit because it's getting a little murky. The water's just kind of crazy, you know?
But you had been told ahead of time, ma'am, that that would happen the later
Absolutely.
the day went.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew it was going to happen, but I started freaking out a bit, as one would. First time
Well,
on a
yes,
kayak.
the ocean is very intimidating. I
Exactly. And
understand.
so I'm trying to balance myself with the paddle and I'm kind of waving it around a bit. I was trying to get settled and I started getting settled a bit. And then all of a sudden I feel Rahul's hand grabbing my paddle and yanking it towards him. I don't know what he was trying to do, but because he yanked my paddle towards him, I guess trying to stabilize me, the top of my kayak T-boned his. And then next thing I know, I hear a huge splash and he's in the water.
Okay, this is where I want to circle back to my set of instructions that were laid out very clearly during the briefing session.
Okay.
Was when you're in trouble, when you feel like you're about to tip over in the water, as an instructor, wait until I come to you. Calm down. The first thing you need to do is calm down, which Victoria was not able to do. She was in a full-blown panic mode.
Well, I
Number two-
understand that, Raul, but here's the thing. I understand the instruction to remain calm, and I understand how that can be the intention. But you have to understand, sir, when you tell someone to remain calm on the land while you're giving instructions, that's one thing. Yeah, when you're at the mercy of God and Mother Nature, it's a little harder to remain calm, don't you think?
It's not just that moment where I felt like Victoria didn't make good decisions or her act was not together. It started since the beginning of the day.
So I'm glad you brought up good decisions. So let's talk about some of this evidence. I'm going to talk about hers, and then I want you to present yours as well.
Yeah.
So, Miss Victoria Rains, you're giving the court an invoice. Do we have? This is you saying that your iPhone that you put in the
That's correct.
plaintiff's wet bag obviously was also destroyed
That's correct.
when he capsized, tipped over, and you won $808.13.
So actually, this is to prove that I paid for that myself. I never expected him to pay that.
So
Because
you paid this bill yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I knew that having my equipment on the ocean, that's a risk.
You understood the inherent risk of that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Varma, please offer up your evidence as well.
Here's my evidence. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Okay, so you purchased a new vintage camera?
I purchased, yes.
Okay, but obviously not the one that your father had gifted
It's
you.
not the same one. Yeah.
Right, so
It's
there's some
something similar.
sentimental value
Correct.
there.
Yeah.
And let's see what we have here. This is you communicating with the defendant. You're saying, hi, Victoria, I got your number from Jessica. Can you please pay me $450? That's the cost of my camera that was lost because of you. Exclamation points. That could be read a little aggressively. You say, I'm devastated over the loss, which you were upset. My father gave me this before he passed away, and you give your Zelle info. You say, no way. You lost my phone too, and I didn't ask you to buy me a new one. If you didn't try to help me, we wouldn't be in this situation. Now, I do find that interesting, Ms. Rains, because some reasonable people might want some help. If they're in the middle of the ocean, they're a first-time kayaker. The rough water is getting a bit intimidating. As you said at one point during this experience, you were intimidated. And it is this man's responsibility to make sure that you are safely returned to the shore side.
So I was struggling, obviously. We've been over that. Freaking
Yes.
out a little bit. But I began to get my bearings at the end. And I was, using my paddle to balance it out. And my paddle was the only source of
That is not
balance
true.
I had. Excuse me, I'm talking. You grab my paddle, and all of a sudden, you yank my kayak towards yours. And as the instructor, I feel like your instructions were to not capsize, yet you're the one that fell into the water.
Okay, so
I'm not sure how that's my fault.
let's recap here because let me tell you exactly what happened, what played out. She was about to tip over. Her kayak was.
So you observed that.
I observed her. Her kayak was almost at a 45 degrees angle, and in my best judgment, I felt like there was a good chance that she would be in water within a few seconds.
Okay. Okay, you two. I've heard enough. We could be here all day with you two telling
I just want to make one.
No. What, did you understand that, sir?
Yeah.
This court cannot hold this woman accountable for the very understandable and foreseeable risk that property could be damaged or lost forever once you bring it into the ocean, wet bag or not, sir. I thank and commend you for doing your job. If this young woman was truly in danger, you could have saved her life. And if the only thing that was lost was a camera and a phone, may God help us all. The court finds that this plaintiff's case will be dismissed. That's my ruling.
Judge Eboni has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim is dismissed.
Next time, you should learn to take responsibility for your own
Probably
equipment.
stop kayaking for good.
All right, guys, you've had your day in court. Please follow me.
Coming up on Equal Justice.
Other than that, did you enjoy the dinner part of the meal?
I did not.
feel like we did.
You did not. Why do you say no?
Because of all of her mess ups in the kitchen, the chicken was under-seasoned, it was dry, the potatoes were
picky.
undercooked.
She's such a brat.
This is Equal Justice. Marie Alcott Henderson claims her sister agreed to split the cost of a celebration dinner to honor their late mother, but then refused to pay up. Laura Alcott says the meal went south, so she owes her sibling nothing.
Good day, ladies. I see Miss Marie Alcott Henderson as my plaintiff and Laura Alcott as the defendant. So I've got one sister suing the other for $200. Ma'am, you say that she owes you her share of the cost of a celebration dinner party. Tell me why you're in court.
Yes, Your Honor. So we threw a celebration party in honor of our mother's memory. She passed away last year.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. We agreed to split the cost of throwing the party, and I did all the setup and I hosted it, and she was there to help. We had our mother's recipe book, and that was a big part of it, was to do the recipes from her book, and she just refuses to pay the money.
Talk to the court about how much money you spent and what proof you have of how much you spent.
I do have the receipts here for...
Please offer that to my bailiff, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. So I purchased several food items for the dinner and dessert.
Now I also see what looked like some party details. So this is
Yeah.
your balloons, your name card, so just the things you would have at a, because this was a dinner party.
It was a dinner party.
Okay,
yeah.
correct. And this is some communication that you want the court to consider. So this is you saying, hey Laura, to your sister here, I just had an idea. Would you want to throw a first day of spring party like Mom used to? I thought it would be a nice way to remember her. You say, OMG, wonderful idea. So you're on board with this. Great. I'm thinking I can do the shopping and we can host it at my place. We can use all of her exact recipes, do it exactly like we remember. Are you good with splitting the price? You say, yep, this all sounds perfect. So we've got agreement here.
Coming up on Equal Justice.
Then, as we were making the potatoes, in the recipe you'll see it says to slice them very thinly. She was slicing them thick, which caused them to be undercooked.
This is Equal Justice. Equal Justice is back with the case of Marie Alcott Henderson, who is fighting with her sister Laura Alcott over a disastrous celebration dinner.
All right, Miss Alcott, defendant.
So during this dinner party that we planned, we were using our mom's recipe cookbook.
Please offer that to my bailiff, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. You have any other things you wanted to
There
consider?
are a few, yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
Go, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. So you're saying, Ms. Defendant, this is the actual cookbook of your mother's recipes that you both refer to for this engagement?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the first issue was when I got there, I realized there was no rosemary. She went out the day before, did all the grocery shopping like she said, and did not pick up any rosemary. That is a crucial ingredient. And when I said that we should go get some more, she said it was basically stupid to go back to the grocery store for one herb, even though it's the titular
Essential
herb.
flavor.
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead. What else went wrong, ma'am?
Then, as we were making the potatoes, in the recipe you'll see it says to slice them very thinly. She was slicing them thick, which caused them to be undercooked. And then I went over to do the dessert myself. The dessert went great. I followed right by the book, and I popped it in the oven for exactly how long it was supposed to be.
Yes.
And then, when it was done, I said, we need to let it cool. So I cracked open the oven, and I said, we need to let the pavlova cool. Let's go have dinner. When I came back from dinner to check on the pavlova, the oven was closed. So it was cracked, burnt, and completely destroyed.
Okay. So listen, this is unfortunate that this dessert was ruined. I'm not even saying whose fault it was at this time. I'll determine that later. But it was ruined. Other than that, did you enjoy the dinner part of the meal?
I did not.
feel like we did.
You did not. Why do you say no?
Because of all of her mess ups in the kitchen, the chicken was under-seasoned, it was dry, the potatoes were
picky.
undercooked.
She's such a brat.
Judge Ebony's verdict when equal justice returns. This is Equal Justice.
So where are you two today as sisters, 1 year out of losing the most important woman in your life?
We mostly talk through family members. I don't want to talk with her. She brought me to court to force me to talk to her. So that's about all.
You're the older sister, ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you miss your sister?
Yes, I do.
I can see that. I see the pain in your face. Do you miss your sister, dear?
Yeah.
Yeah? So I hope that when y'all walk out of this courtroom today, you find it in your hearts to forgive, to connect, and to seize the day, because really all we each have is today. None of us know the day nor the hour when we will be called from this earth. As it pertains to this situation legally, ma'am, you did say that you agreed with the concept of honoring your mother via a dinner party. Your sister, despite her lackluster culinary skills, we'll call them, she made every effort to do that. So this court must hold you responsible for the commitment you made to sharing the expenses. The court rules in favor of the plaintiff for the full amount of $200. Good luck to you, ladies. That's my judgment.
Judge Ebony has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to pay $200.
The atmosphere inside the courtroom was one of weighted silence and expectant breath. High above the polished mahogany bench sat a woman whose presence commanded respect not through fear, but through an unmistakable aura of integrity and lived experience. Judge Ebony K. Williams looked down at the nameplate resting before her. It was a simple object, yet it carried the weight of the law. She often invited those who stood before her to read that name aloud, to understand that in this sacred space, the only perspective that carried the force of judgment was hers. She was a woman shaped by the deep roots of North Carolina and the soulful resilience of Louisiana. She carried with her the effortless cool of the West Coast and the sharp, uncompromising edge of New York City. When she asked if there was a problem, her voice was a melody of authority, seeking not conflict, but clarity. She believed that equal justice was the cornerstone of the nation, a structure built upon the pillars of freedom and integrity. To her, the law was not just a set of rules, but a commitment to being a voice for those who had long been silenced. In her eyes, every person who walked through those doors, regardless of their background, their identity, or their journey, deserved the same measure of fairness. The turbulence of the Channel Islands. The first matter brought before the court involved two young individuals whose lives had intersected on the unpredictable waters of the Pacific Ocean. Rahul Verma, a man who took pride in his role as a guide and a commercial photographer, stood as the plaintiff. Opposite him was Victoria Rains, a student at the University of California, Irvine, who found herself defending her actions during what was supposed to be a day of adventure. Rahul began his testimony with a heavy heart, explaining that he was seeking $450 for the loss of a piece of equipment that meant more to him than its market value. It was a vintage camera, a final gift from his father before he passed away. This camera was not just a tool for his trade, it was a vessel of memories, a connection to a man he had loved and lost. He recounted how the trip had been organized through a mutual friend named Jessica. They had planned a kayaking excursion to the Channel Islands, a place known for its breathtaking sea caves and crystal-clear blue waters. Rahul had been cautious. He knew the sea. He understood that while the morning waters were often as smooth as glass, the afternoon could bring a sudden and treacherous change. He had asked Jessica about the experience level of the 12 people in the group. When he learned that 8 of them, including Victoria, had never held a paddle in their lives, he insisted on an early start. He wanted to be on the water by 10 in the morning to avoid the choppy conditions that inevitably arrived after 2 or 3 in the afternoon. However, the best-laid plans often fall victim to the unpredictability of life. Victoria Rains had been late. The group had waited for her, missing their initial ferry and eventually catching the next one at 12 o'clock. By the time they reached the islands and finished a quick lunch, the sun was already beginning its descent toward the horizon, and the wind was picking up. Rahul described the briefing he gave to the group. He warned them of the waves. He told them to remain calm. He specifically instructed them that if they felt overwhelmed, they should wait for him to come to them. He told them to leave their expensive electronics in the safety of their cars. As they set out, the beauty of the caves provided a temporary distraction, but by 3 in the afternoon, the environment turned hostile. The water became murky and restless. Rahul observed Victoria struggling. She was in a state of visible panic, her paddle flailing as she fought against the rhythm of the ocean. In an attempt to stabilize her, Rahul navigated his kayak close to hers. He reached out his hand, intending to grab her craft and offer the steadying influence of an expert. But in that moment of chaos, the physics of the ocean took over. Victoria, consumed by fear, pulled her paddle toward her with a sudden, jerky motion. The front of her kayak swung around, hitting Rahul's kayak perpendicularly in a maneuver known as a T-bone collision. The impact was enough to capsize Rahul, sending him into the cold, churning water. When he eventually resurfaced and regained his footing, his water bag was gone, and with it, the precious camera. Victoria Rains presented a different perspective. She did not deny her lack of experience, nor did she deny her lateness. She explained that her morning had begun with the frustration of a dead car battery, an obstacle she could not have foreseen. She had felt a deep sense of guilt for holding up the group and had arrived at the boat dock in a frenzy. In her haste, she had forgotten to leave her phone in her car. Seeing that Rahul had a professional dry bag, she had asked him to store her phone for her, a request to which he had kindly agreed. As the afternoon progressed and the waves grew taller, Victoria felt the weight of the ocean's intimidation. She was a first-timer at the mercy of Mother Nature. She described the terrifying sensation of feeling Rahul suddenly grab her paddle and yank it toward him. From her point of view, his attempt to help was what caused the collision. She argued that she was just beginning to find her bearings when his intervention sent them both into a spiral of misfortune. Her own phone, an expensive device worth over $800, was also destroyed in the incident. Unlike Rahul, she had accepted this loss as an inherent risk of the environment and had paid for her own replacement. Judge Eboni listened with a keen ear and a discerning heart. She recognized the pain of the lost camera and the sentimental value it held. However, she also understood the fundamental nature of the ocean. To step into a kayak and venture into the open sea is to accept a certain level of danger. She noted that Rahul, as an experienced guide, was well aware of these risks. He had even warned others to leave their valuables behind, yet he chose to carry his most prized possession into the waves. The judge looked at the 2 young people and saw a lesson in responsibility. She explained that the court could not hold Victoria accountable for a risk that was both understandable and foreseeable. The ocean does not grant guarantees of safety for property. While Rahul had performed his duty in trying to ensure Victoria's physical safety, the loss of the camera was a casualty of the environment they had both chosen to enter. With a firm yet fair tone, Judge Eboni dismissed the case. She encouraged them to take responsibility for their own choices and perhaps, in Victoria's case, to reconsider the hobby of kayaking. The bittersweet memory of a mother's table. The second case brought a different kind of tension into the courtroom, one rooted in the complex and often fragile bonds of sisterhood. Marie Alcott Henderson and Laura Alcott stood before the judge, separated by a distance that was more than just physical. They were there over a dispute of $200, but the true conflict lay in the grief of losing their mother 1 year prior. Marie, the older sister, had proposed a dinner party to celebrate the first day of spring, a tradition their mother had cherished. She wanted to use their mother's original recipe book to recreate the flavors of their childhood. It was meant to be a tribute, a way to keep a beautiful memory alive. The sisters had agreed to split the costs of the food and decorations. Marie took on the task of shopping and hosting, while Laura agreed to help with the preparation. However, the evening did not unfold with the grace Marie had envisioned. Laura refused to pay her share of the bill, claiming that the meal was a disaster and therefore not worth the investment. She pointed to several culinary failures that she believed ruined the spirit of the celebration. According to Laura, the problems began with the shopping list. Marie had forgotten the rosemary, a titular herb essential to the flavor of the main dish. When Laura pointed this out, Marie had dismissed the idea of returning to the store for a single herb, calling it a waste of time. Then came the potatoes. The recipe specifically instructed that they be sliced very thinly, but Marie had sliced them thick, resulting in a side dish that was undercooked and firm to the bite. The chicken, too, was a disappointment, described by Laura as under-seasoned and dry. The final blow to the evening was the dessert. Laura had taken charge of making a pavlova, following the instructions in the cookbook with precision. She had placed it in the oven and, when it was finished, she cracked the oven door to let it cool slowly, as the recipe required. She then went to join the others for dinner. When she returned to check on her creation, she found the oven door closed. The trapped heat had caused the delicate dessert to crack and burn, rendering it completely destroyed. Laura blamed Marie for closing the door, while Marie maintained that the kitchen was a shared space of honest mistakes. Judge Eboni looked at the sisters and saw more than just a dispute over grocery receipts. She saw two women who were still navigating the raw edges of loss. She asked them about their relationship, learning that they now mostly communicated through other family members. The judge's voice softened as she spoke to them about the reality of life and the importance of the present moment. She reminded them that none of us know how much time we have left on this earth, and that to hold on to such small grievances in the face of family loss was a tragedy in itself. In a legal sense, the judge found that an agreement had been made. Marie had followed through on the concept of the party, putting in the effort to shop, host, and cook, even if her culinary skills were not up to Laura's high standards. The intention to honor their mother was the core of the agreement, and Marie had fulfilled her part of that intention. The court ruled in favor of Marie, ordering Laura to pay the $200 she had promised. As the sisters prepared to leave, the judge's words lingered in the air like a gentle plea for reconciliation. Marie, with tears in her eyes, reached out to her sister, expressing how much she missed her and how the money was never the point. It was about the connection they were losing. In the end, the courtroom served not just as a place of judgment, but as a mirror reflecting the need for forgiveness and the enduring power of love. The law had been served, the gavel had fallen, and the stories of these four individuals became part of the long tapestry of equal justice. Each went their separate way, carrying with them the lessons of the sea and the kitchen, and the reminder that the most important values of all are the ones we hold toward each other. The sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the courtroom, casting long and dignified shadows across the polished wood of the benches and the high bench where justice presided. On the desk sat a nameplate that carried a weight of authority and history. It read Judge Eboni K. Williams. To those who entered this room, that name represented more than just a title. It was a promise of a specific perspective. Judge Williams often reminded those in her presence that the only thing that truly mattered in this particular courtroom was how she saw the world, a view shaped by a rich tapestry of American life. She was a woman who carried the soul of North Carolina, the deep roots of Louisiana, the relaxed confidence of West Coast cool, and the sharp, unrelenting edge of New York City. As the proceedings began, Judge Williams looked down at the individuals before her. She noticed a flicker of hesitation from one of the parties. "Do we have a problem, madam?" she asked, her voice steady and commanding. The woman responded quickly, "No, I do not, Your Honor." The judge nodded, satisfied for the moment. For her, equal justice was not a mere slogan, but a pursuit of the most important values of the country: freedom and integrity. These were the things she strived for every single day. She understood the dynamics of power and respect. "Madam, you run your household," she remarked to the defendant, "but this man gets to run his." It was this clarity of boundaries that led her to become an attorney and pursue the law. She wanted to be a voice for the voiceless, ensuring that the scales were balanced, even when the law dictated that the court could not hold a specific person accountable for a series of unfortunate events. Her courtroom was a sanctuary for all sectors of life: black, white, purple, gay, straight, or queer. That was the essence of equal justice with Judge Eboni K. Williams. The first case of the afternoon involved a dispute born of the sea and a series of cascading errors. Mr. Rahul Varma, a professional tour guide, stood as the plaintiff. Opposite him was Miss Victoria Rains, the defendant. The air between them was thick with unresolved tension. Mr. Verma claimed that his valuable camera was lost when Miss Rains, a first-time kayaker, ignored his instructions and T-boned his kayak. Miss Rains, however, maintained that she had panicked in the choppy water and did not require the assistance that Mr. Verma tried to force upon her. Judge Williams turned her attention to the plaintiff. "Mr. Verma, why are we in court today?" she inquired. "Your Honor, I am here to sue Miss Rains for her complete negligence," Mr. Verma began, his voice tinged with a mix of frustration and sadness. He explained that her lack of care caused her kayak to crash into his, leading his own vessel to capsize. When the kayak tipped over, his water bag, containing his belongings, fell into the depths of the ocean. He lost a critical piece of equipment, his camera. But to Mr. Verma, this was not just a piece of technology. "This camera was a gift from my father right before he passed away," he added softly. The judge listened intently. She asked if he took photos commercially, to which he replied in the affirmative. She then sought to understand the circumstances that brought these two people together in the same vicinity. Mr. Verma explained that he had met Victoria through a mutual friend named Jessica. Jessica, a friend from college, had reached out to him to organize a group trip to the Channel Islands. There were 12 people in the group in total. Mr. Verma, ever the professional, had asked if anyone lacked experience. Jessica pointed out that 8 people, including Victoria, had never kayaked before. Knowing the risks, Mr. Verma had planned to arrive early in the morning when the water was relatively calm. In the afternoon, specifically after 2 or 3 in the afternoon, the sea often became choppy and difficult to navigate. However, the plan went awry when Victoria arrived late. It was 10 in the morning and the group missed their scheduled ferry. Despite the unhappiness of the others, they chose not to leave her behind. They waited for the next ferry, which departed around 12 o'clock. By the time they reached their destination, they were already heading into the mid-afternoon. Once they arrived on the island and had a quick lunch, the group prepared for their kayaking adventure. Mr. Varma conducted a briefing, warning them of the choppy waters and asking if they felt comfortable. Victoria had agreed to proceed, despite it being her first time. As the clock ticked past 3 in the afternoon, the water grew turbulent. Mr. Varma observed that Victoria was struggling more than the others. He approached her, telling her to stay calm and remember the instructions. As he reached out to grab her kayak to stabilize it, disaster struck. Her paddle hit his face and her kayak struck his perpendicularly. He fell into the water as his kayak tipped over. When he finally climbed back aboard, he realized his water bag and the precious camera were gone. Judge Williams questioned why he would bring something so precious on a kayak when he had warned others to leave their phones in their cars. She then turned to Miss Rains to hear her side of the story. Miss Rains, a student at the University of California, Irvine, presented her evidence. She explained that she had intended to be on time, but her car battery had died that morning. She felt horrible and had told Jessica to go on without her, but the group waited. In the rush and the frenzy of her late arrival, she forgot to leave her phone in the car. On the ferry, she saw that Rahul had a dry bag and asked if she could slip her phone inside. He agreed. The day began beautifully, with the group exploring caves and enjoying the crystal blue water. But as the afternoon progressed and they left the safety of the caves, the water became murky and intimidating. Miss Raines admitted she began to freak out. She was trying to balance herself with her paddle, waving it around as she sought stability. Suddenly, she felt Rahul grab her paddle and yank it toward him. In her view, this action caused the top of her kayak to T-bone his, leading to the splash that sent him into the water.